Myo-chin stared out the viewport of the refugee transport ship, watching Earth grow smaller behind them. At 17, she looked like any other scared teenager fleeing the Zephyrian invasion. Messy black hair, worn civilian clothes, and eyes that had seen too much death in the past month. The alien warships had come without warning, their crystalline hulls gleaming like deadly jewels against the starfield as they burned humanity's colonies one by one. The transport shuddered as another explosion echoed through space. Maya pressed her face closer to the reinforced glass, watching human defense ships explode like tiny fireworks in the distance. The Zephyrians were winning, and everyone knew it. Their energy weapons cut through human shields like paper, and their ships moved with grace. That made human vessels look clumsy and slow. "Another convoy destroyed," whispered an old man sitting across from Maya. His hands shook as he clutched a photograph of his family. "My grandson was on one of those ships?" Maya said nothing, but her fists clenched in her lap. She had lost her parents on Mars Station when the aliens first attacked. Her little brother died when their escape pod was hit by debris. She was alone now, just another refugee among thousands fleeing toward the outer colonies where humanity hoped to make its last stand. The ship's captain announced over the intercom that they would dock at Kepler Station in 6 hours. Maya had heard about Kepler. It was supposed to be humanity's final fortress, protected by the largest fleet they had ever assembled. But she had also heard the whispers. The Zephyrians were only 3 days behind them, and their force was massive beyond imagination. As Maya settled back in her seat, she noticed something odd. The elderly man across from her was staring at her with strange intensity. When their eyes met, he looked away quickly, but not before she caught something in his expression. Recognition? Fear? She couldn't tell. "Excuse me," the man said quietly, leaning forward. "Are you Maya-chan?" Maya's blood ran cold. How could this stranger know her name? She had been careful to use false identification papers during the evacuation. "I think you have me confused with someone else," she lied. The man's eyes filled with tears. "Your father was Dr. James Chun, wasn't he? The xenobiologist who worked on the Prometheus project?" Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. The Prometheus project was classified beyond top secret. She had only learned about it by accident when she found her father's hidden research files while packing their belongings during the evacuation. According to those files, her father had been studying captured Zephyrian technology for the past 5 years, trying to understand how their energy systems worked. "I don't know what you're talking about," Maya said. But her voice cracked. The old man reached into his jacket and pulled out a small data pad. "My name is Dr. Marcus Webb. I worked with your father. He gave me this before Mars Station fell, told me to find you if something happened to him." He held out the device. "He said you were the only one who could complete his work." Maya stared at the data pad like it was a poisonous snake. "I'm not a scientist. I'm just a kid who's good with computers." Dr. Webb smiled sadly. "Your father said you were much more than that. He said you had inherited your mother's intuition for xenobiology and your grandmother's gift for mathematics. He believed you could see patterns that others missed." Against her better judgment, Maya took the data pad. The moment her fingers touched the screen, it activated with her biometric signature. Her father's face appeared on the display, and Maya nearly dropped the device. It was a video message recorded just hours before his death. "My darling Maya," her father's voice said through the tiny speakers. "If you are watching this, then the worst has happened. The Zephyrians have found us, and I am gone. But my work is not finished, and humanity's survival depends on someone completing it." The video showed complex diagrams of alien technology, energy patterns that looked like living things, and mathematical equations that hurt Maya's head to look at. Her father explained that the Zephyrians weren't just using advanced technology. They were using something that combined science with what could only be called magic. Their ships were alive, their weapons were powered by captured starlight, and their entire civilization was based on manipulating energy at the quantum level. "The key is resonance frequency," her father continued. Every Zephyrian ship, weapon, and piece of technology operates on the same base frequency. If we could generate a counter-resonance, we could disrupt their entire fleet simultaneously. But the calculations are incredibly complex, requiring an understanding of both quantum mechanics and xenobiology that took me years to develop. Maya paused the video, her mind reeling. She looked around the crowded transport ship at all the frightened faces of humanity's refugees. These people were depending on their military to save them, but what if the military wasn't enough? What if a 17-year-old girl with her father's research was their only hope? "There's more," Dr. Webb whispered, glancing around to make sure no one else was listening. "Your father wasn't the only one working on this. There's a secret facility on Kepler Station where other scientists are trying to weaponize his discoveries. But they're missing crucial pieces of the puzzle, pieces that only exist in your father's private files." Maya stared at the datapad, feeling the weight of impossible responsibility settling on her shoulders. She was just a teenager who wanted to survive the war, not save humanity from extinction. But as she looked around at the frightened refugees, she thought about her parents, her brother, and all the other people who had died because humanity couldn't fight back against the Zephyrian invasion. The transport ship shuddered again as they jumped to hyperspace, racing toward Kepler Station and humanity's last stand. Maya made her decision. She would complete her father's work, no matter how impossible it seemed. She would find a way to turn the tide of this war. Even if no one believed that a scared teenager could become humanity's greatest hero, outside the viewport, stars stretched into lines as they fled toward an uncertain future, carrying the hopes and fears of an entire species toward what might be their final battle. Kepler Station was nothing like Maya had expected. Instead of a gleaming military fortress, she found herself stepping off the transport into a massive, chaotic hub of desperate activity. Thousands of refugees crowded the docking bays while military personnel rushed between ships, loading supplies and evacuating wounded soldiers from the front lines. The air smelled of ozone, fear, and the metallic tang of recycled atmosphere pushed beyond its limits. Dr. Webb stayed close to Maya as they made their way through the crowds. His security clearance got them past several checkpoints, but Maya noticed how the guards looked at her with suspicion. What was a teenage refugee doing with a high-ranking scientist? She tried to act casual, but her heart pounded every time someone stared too long at her face. "The research facility is in Section 7, Dr. Webb explained as they boarded a transport tube. "It's heavily guarded and officially doesn't exist. Your father's work was so classified that most of the researchers don't even know what they're really working on." Maya clutched the datapad tighter. She had spent the entire journey studying her father's files, trying to understand the complex theories about Zephyrian technology. The more she learned, the more impossible the task seemed. Her father was asking her to complete research that had taken him years, and she had maybe days before the enemy fleet arrived. The transport tube shot through the station's core, past residential sections packed with refugees and military sectors buzzing with activity. Maya caught glimpses of massive weapons being assembled, ships being retrofitted with new armor, and soldiers preparing for what everyone knew would be humanity's final battle. The weight of her secret knowledge felt crushing. Section 7 looked like any other part of the station from the outside, but the security was intense. Armed guards checked their identification 3 times before allowing them through blast doors that were thick enough to survive a direct hit from a fusion bomb. Inside, Maya found herself in a sterile white corridor that led to laboratories filled with the most advanced technology she had ever seen. Dr. Webb, a tall woman with graying hair, hurried toward them. "Thank goodness you made it back safely. The director wants to see you immediately. We've had another breakthrough with the energy matrix, but we're still missing something fundamental." Dr. Webb nodded toward Maya. "Dr. Rodriguez, this is Maya Chun. She has access to information that might help us complete the project." Dr. Rodriguez looked Maya up and down skeptically. She's just a child. How could she possibly help with quantum xenobiology research? Her father was Dr. James Chun, Dr. Webb explained quietly. Dr. Rodriguez's expression changed immediately. Her eyes widened with a mixture of hope and disbelief. James Chin's daughter? But we thought all his family was killed on Mars Station. I survived, Maya said simply, and I have his private research files. Dr. Rodriguez led them deeper into the facility, explaining the project as they walked. We call it Operation Harmony, she said. Based on your father's initial research, we've been trying to create a weapon that can disrupt Zephyrian energy systems. We've made progress, but we're missing crucial data about their base frequency patterns. They entered a massive laboratory where dozens of scientists worked around a strange device in the center of the room. It looked like a giant tuning fork made of crystalline metal, surrounded by monitoring equipment and energy generators. The device hummed with power, creating a sound that made Maya's teeth ache. This is our harmonic disruptor prototype, Dr. Rodriguez explained. In theory, it should be able to generate counterfrequencies that will shut down Zephyrian technology. But every time we test it, something goes wrong. Either we can't achieve the right frequency, or the device destroys itself from the energy feedback. Maya stared at the machine, her father's research flooding back into her mind. She could see the problem immediately. You're trying to generate a single counter-frequency, she said. But that's not how Zephyrian technology works. Their systems don't use one frequency. They use harmonic patterns that shift and adapt. The scientists around them stopped working and stared at the teenage girl who was critiquing their research. Dr. Rodriguez looked annoyed. Young lady, we've been working on this for months. The frequency analysis is based on extensive study of captured Zephyrian technology. Maya pulled out her father's datapad and activated a complex diagram. My father discovered that Zephyrian technology is semi-alive. Their energy systems learn and adapt to threats. If you hit them with a single frequency, they just adjust their harmonics to compensate. You need a cascading frequency attack that changes faster than their systems can adapt. A young scientist nearby laughed. That's impossible. No technology could generate frequency changes that rapidly. The power requirements alone would be astronomical. Maya felt a flash of anger. These people were supposed to be the best scientists humanity had, but they were missing something obvious. You're thinking about it wrong, she said. You don't need to generate the frequencies yourself. You need to make the Zephyrian systems generate them for you. The laboratory fell silent. Dr. Rodriguez stepped closer, her skepticism replaced by intense interest. What do you mean? Maya walked over to the harmonic disruptor and studied its configuration. Zephyrian technology is based on quantum entanglement between their energy systems. Every ship, weapon, and piece of equipment is connected at the subatomic level. That's their strength, but it's also their weakness. If you could create a feedback loop in their quantum network, you could make their entire fleet destroy itself from the inside. Dr. Webb smiled proudly. Show them, Maya. Show them what your father discovered. Maya's hands flew over the control panels, making adjustments to the harmonic disruptor based on her father's research. She felt a strange confidence growing inside her, as if all the years of watching her parents work, all the computer programming skills she had developed as a hobby, and all the hours she had spent studying alien mathematics were coming together for this moment. The key is creating a quantum virus, she explained as she worked. A pattern that looks harmless to Zephyrian systems but actually corrupts their harmonic matrix from within. Once it spreads through their quantum network, it will cause cascade failures throughout their entire fleet. The scientists watched in amazement as Maya reconfigured their prototype in ways they had never considered. Her young fingers moved with the certainty of someone who understood the technology on an instinctive level. Within an hour, she had transformed their simple frequency generator into something far more complex and dangerous. Incredible, Dr. Rodriguez whispered. The theoretical framework is beyond anything we imagined. But will it work? Maya stepped back from the modified device, her heart racing with a mixture of excitement and terror. There's only one way to find out. But we need to be careful. If this goes wrong, it could feed back into our own systems and destroy the station. Alarms suddenly began blaring throughout the facility. A voice echoed over the intercom. All personnel to battle stations. Long-range sensors have detected the Zephyrian fleet. They will arrive in 18 hours. Maya looked around at the frightened faces of humanity's best scientists and felt the crushing weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders once again. In less than a day, the most powerful alien fleet in the galaxy would arrive to finish what they had started. And humanity's only hope was a 17-year-old girl with her father's research and a plan that might save everyone or destroy them all. The next 12 hours passed in a blur of frantic preparation. Maya worked alongside the research team, fine-tuning the harmonic disruptor while military personnel prepared Kepler Station's defenses for the coming battle. The teenager who had arrived as a nameless refugee was now the center of humanity's most desperate gamble, Admiral Sarah Constantine. The station's commanding officer stood in the laboratory watching Maya work. The admiral was a legend in the human fleet, a woman who had never lost a battle and commanded the respect of every soldier under her command. But as she watched a 17-year-old girl modify their most advanced weapon, even she looked uncertain. "Dr. Rodriguez," the admiral said quietly, "are we really putting humanity's survival in the hands of a child?" Dr. Rodriguez glanced at Maya, who was deep in concentration, her fingers dancing across holographic control interfaces with stunning precision. "Admiral, I've been studying xenobiology for 20 years, and I've never seen anyone understand alien technology the way she does. It's like she can see patterns that are invisible to the rest of us." Maya heard the conversation but didn't look up from her work. She was used to adults doubting her abilities. At school, teachers had always said she was too young to understand advanced concepts. Her parents' colleagues had dismissed her interest in their research as childish curiosity. But now, with humanity's extinction hanging in the balance, none of that mattered. Only the work mattered. "The quantum matrix is stabilizing," Maya announced, stepping back from the control panel. The harmonic disruptor had been completely transformed. What had once been a simple crystalline device was now a complex array of energy conduits and processing cores that hummed with barely contained power. "We're ready for the first test." The laboratory cleared except for essential personnel. Maya stood at the main control station, her hand hovering over the activation switch. If her calculations were wrong, the device could destroy half the station. If they were right, it might give humanity its first real weapon against the Zephyrian fleet. "Beginning test sequence," Maya announced, her voice steadier than she felt. She activated the device and watched as energy readings spiked across every monitor in the room. The harmonic disruptor generated a sound like singing crystal, a hauntingly beautiful tone that seemed to resonate in everyone's bones. Energy patterns flowed through the device's matrix, creating complex interference waves that looked almost alive on the monitoring displays. "Quantum frequency is holding stable," Dr. Webb reported from his station. "The pattern is self-sustaining and adapting to environmental variations." Maya watched the energy readings carefully, comparing them to her father's theoretical predictions. Everything was working perfectly, almost too perfectly. "Shut it down," she ordered suddenly. "What? Why?" Dr. Rodriguez demanded. "The test is successful." "That's the problem," Maya said, her face pale. "It's working too well. The quantum virus is adapting faster than my father predicted. If we had let it run much longer, it would have started affecting our own systems." Admiral Constantine stepped forward. "What does that mean for the battle?" Maya ran her hands through her hair, feeling the weight of impossible decisions. "It means we get one shot. The moment we activate this weapon against the Zephyrian fleet, we have maybe 30 seconds before the quantum virus becomes too chaotic to control. If we don't disable it in time, it could spread to every piece of technology in this system, including our own ships." The Admiral's expression grew grim. "How close do we need to be for the weapon to work?" Maya consulted her father's research again, running rapid calculations in her head. "The quantum entanglement field has a limited range. We'd need to get within 50,000 kilometers of the main Zephyrian vessel to ensure the virus spreads through their entire fleet." 50,000 kilometers? Dr. Rodriguez looked horrified. That's practically point-blank range for their energy weapons. No human ship has ever survived that close to a Zephyrian vessel. Admiral Constantine was quiet for a long moment, her tactical mind weighing impossible odds. We'll need a volunteer crew. A fast ship that can get close enough to deploy the weapon before being destroyed. I'll go, Maya said immediately. Absolutely not, the Admiral replied. You're just a civilian, and we need you here to monitor the weapon systems. Maya shook her head firmly. You don't understand. The quantum virus isn't a simple computer program. It's based on Zephyrian mathematics that most humans can't even comprehend. If something goes wrong during the deployment, I'm the only one who might be able to fix it in real time. Dr. Webb placed a protective hand on Maya's shoulder. She's right, Admiral. The quantum calculations required to control the virus are beyond what any of our computer systems can handle. Maya has been working with her father's research for years. She's the only one who can make the necessary adjustments if the situation changes. The Admiral looked at Maya with a mixture of admiration and regret. You realize this is essentially a suicide mission? Even if the weapon works perfectly, the ship that deploys it probably won't survive the battle. Maya thought about her parents, killed on Mars Station. She thought about her little brother, dead in the wreckage of their escape pod. She thought about all the refugees she had seen, all the soldiers preparing to die in humanity's final battle. I understand, Admiral. But if we don't try this, everyone dies anyway. 6 hours later, Maya stood in the hangar bay of Kepler Station, watching technicians load the harmonic disruptor onto the fastest ship in the human fleet. The Defiant was a prototype stealth frigate, designed to slip past enemy defenses and deliver surgical strikes against high-value targets. Now it would carry a 17-year-old girl and humanity's last hope into the heart of the largest alien fleet in galactic history. Captain Marcus Reed. The ship's commanding officer approached Maya with obvious reluctance. He was a veteran pilot who had fought in every major battle of the war. But he looked uncomfortable with his newest crew member. Miss Chun, he said formally, I want you to know that my crew and I will do everything possible to get you close enough to deploy your weapon. But once the shooting starts, I can't guarantee your safety. Maya nodded, checking the portable control unit she would use to operate the harmonic disruptor during the mission. I understand, Captain. Just get me close enough to the enemy flagship. I'll handle the rest. As the final preparations were completed, Dr. Webb pulled Maya aside for a private conversation. His eyes were filled with tears as he spoke. Your father would be so proud of you. But Maya, if this doesn't work, if the weapon fails or the virus gets out of control, then humanity was doomed anyway, Maya finished quietly. Dr. Webb, I need you to promise me something. If we fail, if the Zephyrians win, make sure people remember that we tried. Make sure they remember that even when everything seemed hopeless, humans never gave up fighting. Dr. Webb hugged her tightly. They'll remember, Maya. They'll remember the teenager who became humanity's greatest hero. Maya boarded the Defiant, taking one last look at Kepler Station through the hangar's massive blast doors. Somewhere out there, the Zephyrian fleet was approaching, confident in their overwhelming superiority. They expected to face desperate human defenders armed with primitive weapons and futile courage. They had no idea that humanity's secret weapon was a 17-year-old girl with her father's research and a plan so dangerous it might destroy both fleets. As the Defiant's engines powered up for launch, Maya strapped herself into the weapons control station and began final preparations for the most important battle in human history. The Zephyrian fleet emerged from hyperspace like a nightmare made real. Maya watched through the Defiant's sensors as hundreds of crystalline warships materialized in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with deadly beauty against the starfield. Each vessel was a work of art and engineering that humanity could barely comprehend, powered by captured starlight and controlled by minds that thought in quantum mathematics. My God, Captain Reed whispered from the pilot's seat. I've seen Zephyrian fleets before, but nothing like this. That's not just a military force, it's an entire civilization mobilized for war. Maya studied the tactical display, her heart sinking as she counted the enemy vessels. Her father's research had been based on analyzing small Zephyrian patrol groups, but this fleet was massive beyond anything humans had ever faced. Worse, she could see that their formation wasn't random, it was a complex geometric pattern that would amplify their quantum entanglement network. The flagship, Maya said, pointing to a massive vessel at the center of the enemy formation. That crystalline cathedral, that's their command ship. If I'm right about their quantum network, destroying that vessel should cascade through their entire fleet. Captain Reed activated the stealth systems, and the Defiant began moving toward the enemy formation like a ghost in space. They had maybe 20 minutes before the Zephyrians detected them, and Naya used every second to fine-tune the harmonic. DIS-RUPTOR. The portable control unit was a maze of alien mathematics and quantum field generators. As Maya worked, she felt her father's presence guiding her hands, as if all those years of watching him research had prepared her for this exact moment. But she also felt the crushing weight of responsibility. If she made even one small mistake, humanity would die. Enemy vessels are beginning their attack run on Kepler Station, the Defiant's tactical officer reported. Our fleet is moving to intercept, but they're outnumbered 5-1. Through the ship's long-range sensors, Maya watched humanity's final battle begin. Human ships threw themselves at the Zephyrian formation with desperate courage, their missiles and energy weapons scoring hits that barely scratched the aliens' crystalline hulls. In return, the Zephyrians fired beams of pure light that cut through human shields like they weren't even there. The Yorktown just took a direct hit, the communications officer announced. She's breaking apart. I'm getting escape pod signals, but most of her crew is gone. Maya forced herself to focus on her work instead of watching the slaughter. Every few seconds, another human ship died in bursts of flame and debris. They were buying time with their lives, giving the Defiant precious minutes to get close enough for Maya's desperate plan. 15,000 kilometers to the flagship, Captain Reed announced. We're in the outer edge of their detection grid. Once we get much closer, stealth won't help us. Maya looked up from her control unit, her face pale but determined. I need 5 more minutes to complete the final calculations. The quantum virus has to be perfectly calibrated to their network frequency, or it'll just bounce off their shields harmlessly. The Defiant continued its silent approach, sliding between the massive enemy vessels like a minnow swimming among whales. The Zephyrian ships were beautiful in a way that made Maya's heart ache, graceful curves of living crystal that seemed to sing with harmonic energy. It was almost tragic that something so magnificent had to be destroyed. 10,000 kilometers, Captain Reed reported. We're definitely in their detection range now. I'm amazed they haven't spotted us yet. Maya's hands flew over the control interfaces, making minute adjustments to the harmonic disruptor's quantum matrix. Her father's research had predicted this exact scenario, but the reality was far more complex than any theoretical model. The Zephyrian flagship's energy signature was constantly shifting, adapting to threats in ways that seemed almost alive. Suddenly, alarms began screaming throughout the Defiant. We've been detected, the tactical officer shouted. Multiple energy signatures converging on our position. Evasive maneuvers, Captain Reed ordered, throwing the ship into a series of violent turns that sent Maya crashing against her restraints through the viewport. Maya saw streams of coherent light lance pass the ship, each beam carrying enough energy to vaporize a city block. The defense pilot threw them into an impossible series of rolls and dives, using every trick he had learned in 5 years of fighting the aliens. 7,000 kilometers to target, Captain Reed announced through gritted teeth. But we've got 6 enemy fighters closing on us, and our stealth system is completely compromised. Maya watched the tactical display as the Zephyrian fighters closed in, their crystalline hulls gleaming like deadly jewels. Each one was faster and more maneuverable than anything humanity had ever built, armed with weapons that could destroy the Defiant with a single hit. I need 2 more minutes, Maya shouted over the noise of battle. The quantum virus is almost ready, but if I deploy it too early, it won't propagate properly through their network. The Defiant shuddered as enemy fire grazed their hull. Warning lights flashed throughout the ship as systems began failing under the assault. Captain Reed's crew fought desperately to keep them alive long enough for Maya to complete her work. 5,000 kilometers, the pilot announced. I can't get us much closer. They're throwing everything they have at us. Maya made the final adjustments to the harmonic disruptor, her hands shaking as explosions rocked the ship around her. The quantum virus was ready, a deadly pattern of mathematical poison that would spread through the Zephyrian network like wildfire. But she had to time the deployment perfectly, or humanity's last hope would die with them in the cold vacuum of space. Hull breach on Deck 3, someone shouted. We're losing atmosphere. Emergency seals are holding, the engineer reported. But we can't take much more of this punishment. Maya looked at her control display and saw the most beautiful sight of her young life, a perfect quantum pattern that matched her father's theoretical predictions. The harmonic disruptor was ready to deploy, loaded with a virus that could destroy the entire Zephyrian fleet. Captain, Maya called out, get me to 4,000 kilometers from the flagship. I'm ready to deploy the weapon. Captain Reed looked back at her with respect and sadness. They both knew that once she activated the quantum virus, the Defiant would become a priority target for every weapon in the enemy fleet. They might succeed in saving humanity, but they wouldn't live to see their victory. You heard her, the captain shouted to his crew. All power to engines. Take us in. The Defiant roared toward the massive Zephyrian flagship, racing against time and death while Maya prepared to unleash her father's final gift to humanity. Behind them, the human fleet continued its desperate sacrifice, buying precious seconds with their courage and blood. Ahead of them, the alien command ship grew larger and more imposing, its crystalline spires reaching out like the fingers of an angry god. Maya's finger hovered over the activation control, waiting for the perfect moment to change the course of galactic history. In a few seconds, she would discover whether a 17-year-old girl could really become the hero who ended the war. 4,000 kilometers, Captain Reed announced as the Defiant shuddered under another barrage of enemy fire. Maya, whatever you're going to do it now. Maya's fingers slammed down on the activation control. The harmonic disruptor came to life with a sound like singing crystal, generating patterns of quantum energy that raced toward the Zephyrian flagship at the speed of light. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. The massive alien vessel continued its stately movement through space, its crystalline hull gleaming with deadly beauty. Then the flagship's energy signature began to fluctuate. It's working, Maya shouted, watching her control displays with fierce concentration. The quantum virus is infiltrating their network? I can see it spreading through their entanglement matrix. On the Defiant's tactical display, the Zephyrian flagship's energy readings began showing chaotic spikes. The graceful curves of its crystalline hull started flickering with unstable light, as if the ship was fighting some internal battle. The quantum virus was doing exactly what Maya's father had predicted, turning the aliens' greatest strength into their fatal weakness. Enemy fire is decreasing, the tactical officer reported with amazement. Several of their fighters just went dark completely. Maya watched the virus spread through the Zephyrian quantum network like ripples in a pond. The mathematical pattern her father had created was perfectly designed to exploit the aliens' reliance on quantum entanglement. Every ship, weapon, and system in their fleet was connected at the subatomic level, and now that connection was carrying death throughout their entire force, but something was wrong. The virus was spreading too fast, adapting and evolving beyond Maya's control. Her father's careful mathematical constraints were breaking down as the pattern encountered the full complexity of the Zephyrian fleet's quantum matrix. Captain, Maya called out in alarm. We need to get away from here now. The quantum virus is becoming unstable. Before Captain Reed could respond, the Zephyrian flagship exploded in a cascade of crystalline light. The massive vessel came apart like a flower blooming in reverse, its hull fragmenting into millions of gleaming pieces that sparkled like stars against the darkness of space. The explosion was beautiful and terrible, A death song that resonated across multiple dimensions. The quantum virus didn't stop with the flagship. It raced through the entanglement network at impossible speed, jumping from ship to ship in seconds. One by one, the Zephyrian vessels began suffering cascade failures. Their perfect crystalline hulls cracked and shattered as their quantum systems turned against them. Energy weapons discharged randomly into space, and graceful formation patterns dissolved into chaos. "Incredible," Captain Reed whispered. "The entire enemy fleet is coming apart." Maya should have felt triumphant, but her control displays were showing readings that filled her with terror. The quantum virus wasn't just destroying the Zephyrian fleet, it was continuing to evolve, becoming something far more dangerous than her father had ever imagined. The mathematical pattern was now so complex that it was beginning to affect the fundamental quantum structure of space itself. "We have a problem," Maya announced, her voice tight with panic. "The virus is becoming self-sustaining. It's drawing energy from quantum vacuum fluctuations and using that power to replicate and spread. If we don't stop it soon, it could affect every piece of technology in this star system." Captain Reed's face went pale. "Including our own ships?" Maya nodded grimly. "And Kepler Station?" "And every piece of human technology within 50 light years. The quantum virus is becoming a technological plague that could destroy both civilizations." On the tactical display, the last Zephyrian vessels were breaking apart in cascades of light and crystal. The alien fleet that had seemed invincible just minutes ago was now nothing but debris and energy signatures fading into the cosmic background. Humanity had won its greatest victory, but at a price that might prove catastrophic. How do we stop it? Captain Reed demanded. Maya's fingers flew over her control interfaces, trying to implement the shutdown protocols her father had built into the virus. But the mathematical entity had grown beyond his original design, evolving into something that could think and adapt on its own. Every time she tried to halt its spread, the virus created new quantum pathways around her constraints. "The shutdown codes aren't working," Maya reported, sweat beading on her forehead. "The virus has evolved beyond my father's original parameters. It's like trying to cage lightning with bare hands." Through the ship's communication system, they heard Admiral Constantine's voice from Kepler Station. "All ships, be advised. We're detecting quantum anomalies spreading throughout the system. Unknown energy signatures are approaching the outer defense perimeter." Maya realized with growing horror that the virus was now propagating through space itself, carried by quantum field fluctuations that existed everywhere in the universe. It wouldn't need ships or communication networks to spread. It could travel through the vacuum of space at the speed of light, consuming technology wherever it found it. "Captain," Maya said quietly, "I need you to get me back to Kepler Station immediately. There might be one way to stop this, but I need access to the main research laboratory." Captain Reed didn't hesitate. "All power to engines. Set course for Kepler Station, maximum burn." The Defiant raced through the debris field that had once been the Zephyrian fleet, dodging chunks of crystalline hull and random energy discharges from dying alien systems. Behind them, Maya could feel the quantum virus spreading like an invisible wildfire, consuming technology and growing stronger with each passing second. "What's your plan?" Captain Reed asked as they approached the station. Maya stared at her control displays, her mind racing through possibilities. "My father built more than just a weapon," she explained. "He also created a theoretical antivirus, a counter pattern that could neutralize the quantum virus by creating destructive interference in its mathematical structure. But implementing it requires computational power that only Kepler Station's main computer can provide. And if it doesn't work?" Maya met his eyes with grim determination. "Then we'll have saved humanity from the Zephyrians only to destroy ourselves with our own weapon." "But Captain, we have to try. The alternative is watching the virus spread to Earth, to all the human colonies, to every piece of technology our species has ever created." The Defiant docked at Kepler Station, just as the first signs of quantum virus infection began appearing in the station's outer sensors. Maya ran through the corridors like her life depended on it, because the survival of human civilization might literally rest on the next few minutes of her young life. Behind her, space itself began to flicker with unstable quantum patterns as the virus continued its relentless spread toward the heart of human space. The teenager who had set out to save humanity from alien invasion now faced a far more dangerous enemy, the unleashed consequences of her own desperate gamble. Maya burst into the research laboratory to find chaos. Scientists and technicians rushed between failing computer systems as quantum virus infections spread through Kepler station's network like digital cancer. Control panels flickered with unstable energy patterns, and the air itself seemed to hum with dangerous resonance frequencies. "Dr. Rodriguez," Maya called out, spotting the xenobiologist near the main computer core. "I need immediate access to the station's primary processing array." Dr. Rodriguez looked up from a console that was sparking with quantum interference. "Maya, thank goodness you're back. The virus is spreading through our systems faster than we can isolate them. We've lost primary navigation, life support is flickering, and the reactor control systems are showing signs of cascade failure." Maya pushed past a group of panicking technicians and dove into the main computer interface. Her father's research files were still stored in her personal datapad, but implementing the antivirus would require computational resources that only the station's quantum processors could provide. The problem was that those same processors were being systematically corrupted by the very virus she was trying to stop. "I need a clean processing core," Maya announced, her fingers flying over holographic controls. "Something that hasn't been touched by the quantum virus yet?" Dr. Webb appeared at her shoulder, his face pale with exhaustion and fear. "The backup research array in Section 12 might still be clean. It's been isolated from the main network since we detected the first infections." Maya nodded and began transferring her father's antivirus code to the backup system. The mathematical patterns were incredibly complex, requiring quantum calculations that pushed even the station's most advanced computers to their limits. As she worked, she could feel the virus spreading through the station's infrastructure, corrupting systems and consuming processing power with each passing second. "Warning," the station's computer announced in a distorted voice. "Quantum virus infection detected in primary life support systems. Emergency protocols initiated. Estimated time to critical failure, 12 minutes. Admiral Constantine's voice echoed through the laboratory's communication system. "All personnel, we are detecting virus signatures in the reactor control matrix. If we lose containment on the fusion reactors, the resulting explosion will destroy the station and everyone on it." Maya forced herself to focus on the antivirus code, even as panic spread through the laboratory around her. The mathematical entity her father had created to neutralize the quantum virus was elegant in its simplicity. Instead of trying to fight the virus directly, it would create a harmonic resonance that would cause the virus to cancel itself out through destructive interference. But implementing the antivirus was like performing surgery on a patient who was actively dying. Every few seconds, another system would fall to the virus, reducing the computational power available for Maya's calculations. She was racing against technological entropy itself, trying to complete her work before the spreading infection consumed the tools she needed to stop it. "Got it," Maya announced suddenly. "The antivirus is compiled and ready for deployment. But I need to transmit it directly into the quantum virus network, and that means we need to reactivate the harmonic disruptor." Dr. Rodriguez looked at her in alarm. "Maya, the harmonic disruptor was damaged when the Defiant returned. Half its quantum matrix was burned out by the energy feedback from the virus deployment." Maya studied the damage reports on her screen, her heart sinking as she realized the extent of the problem. The harmonic disruptor was the only device on the station capable of generating the quantum frequencies needed to inject her antivirus into the spreading plague. Without it, the antivirus would remain just theoretical mathematics with no way to reach its target. "We can rebuild it," Maya said with grim determination. "Dr. Webb, I need you to gather every quantum engineer on the station. Dr. Rodriguez, we need all the crystalline processing cores from the backup research arrays." We're going to build a new harmonic disruptor from scratch, and we have maybe 8 minutes to do it." The next few minutes were a blur of desperate activity. Scientists and technicians who had never worked together before found themselves collaborating on humanity's most important engineering project. Under Maya's direction, they dismantled backup systems, repurposed quantum cores, and jury-rigged connections that would have been considered impossible under normal circumstances. Maya worked like someone possessed, her understanding of Zephyrian mathematics guiding the reconstruction process. Every component had to be perfectly aligned with quantum field fluctuations that most humans couldn't even perceive. One small mistake would render the entire device useless, and there wouldn't be time for a second attempt. "Quantum virus has reached the reactor containment systems," Admiral Constantine announced over the intercom. "We're getting cascade failures in the magnetic bottle generators. Estimated time to core breach, 4 minutes. Maya's hands shook as she made the final connections to the improvised harmonic disruptor. The device looked nothing like the elegant crystalline array they had used before. It was a chaotic assembly of salvaged components, held together by emergency power cables and desperate hope. But according to her calculations, it should be able to generate the specific quantum frequencies needed to deploy the antivirus. "Powering up the makeshift disruptor," Dr. Webb announced from the power control station. "Energy levels are fluctuating wildly, but we're achieving stable resonance in the primary harmonic matrix." Maya activated her antivirus program and watched as streams of corrective code flowed through the improvised device toward the spreading quantum virus. The antivirus was designed to seek out the virus's core mathematical structure and introduce precise errors that would cause the entire pattern to collapse in on itself. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, one by one, the virus infection indicators began turning from red to yellow to green as the antivirus spread through the station's network. The quantum plague that had threatened to consume human civilization was being systematically dismantled by mathematics. "More elegant than the virus itself. It's working," Dr. Rodriguez shouted with joy. "Virus infections are dropping throughout the station. Primary systems are coming back online." Maya watched her displays with intense concentration, monitoring the battle between virus and antivirus that was taking place in quantum dimensions beyond human perception. Her father's final gift to humanity was proving its worth, not just as a weapon against alien invaders, but as protection against the consequences of their own desperate measures. "Reactor containment is stabilizing," Admiral Constantine announced. "All systems showing normal parameters. The quantum virus appears to be neutralized." Maya slumped back in her chair, exhaustion hitting her like a physical blow. Around the laboratory, scientists and technicians cheered and embraced each other, celebrating humanity's survival against impossible odds. But Maya felt only a deep, bone-weary relief that the nightmare was finally over. "Is it really finished?" Dr. Webb asked quietly, studying the status displays. Maya nodded, checking and rechecking her readings to make sure the antivirus had completely eliminated the quantum virus threat. "The virus is gone, and the antivirus is designed to self-destruct once its target is neutralized. We're safe." Admiral Constantine entered the laboratory, her face showing a mixture of gratitude and amazement. "Miss Chun," she said formally, "on behalf of humanity, I want to thank you for your service. You've saved not just this station, but our entire civilization." Maya looked around at the faces of the people she had helped save, scientists, soldiers, and civilians who would live to see another day because a 17-year-old girl had completed her father's work. The teenager who had arrived at Kepler Station as a nameless refugee had become something far greater than anyone had imagined possible, but as the celebration continued around her, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that this victory was only the beginning of humanity's journey to the stars. The Zephyrians were gone, but the universe was vast and full of unknown dangers. Humanity would need to be ready for whatever came next. And that meant continuing the work her parents had started. The war was over, but the real adventure was just beginning. 6 months after the Battle of Kepler Station, Maya Shun stood before the United Earth Council in Geneva, wearing the simple black dress she had chosen for the ceremony. At 18, she looked older than her years, marked by experiences that had transformed a frightened refugee into humanity's most celebrated hero. The Great Hall was packed with representatives from every human colony, military leaders, and scientists who had come to witness history being made. Maya Chun, the council president announced, his voice carrying to every corner of the hall, by unanimous decision of the United Earth Council, you are hereby awarded the Star of Humanity, our highest honor for service to our species. Your courage, intelligence, and sacrifice saved not just the human race, but preserved the dream of peaceful exploration among the stars. The audience erupted in applause, but Maya barely heard it. Her thoughts were focused on the future, on the responsibilities that came with her new role as Director of Quantum Defense Research. The Zephyrian threat was ended, but her analysis of the alien technology had revealed disturbing truths about the galaxy beyond human space. After the ceremony, Maya met with Admiral Constantine and Dr. Rodriguez in a secure briefing room beneath the council building. The walls were lined with holographic displays showing star charts, energy signatures, and intelligence reports that painted a complex picture of galactic civilization. Tell them what you've discovered, Admiral Constantine said quietly. Maya activated a holographic projection that showed the local galactic arm, with human colonies marked in blue and former Zephyrian territory in red. The Zephyrians weren't just another alien species, she explained. They were refugees themselves, fleeing from something called the Quantum Collective, a machine intelligence that consumes organic civilizations by converting their technology into extensions of its own consciousness. Dr. Rodriguez leaned forward, studying the display. The quantum virus technology we used against the Zephyrians. Could the collective use similar weapons against us? Maya nodded grimly. The quantum patterns I found in Zephyrian technology suggests they were fighting a losing war against enemies who think in mathematics that make our most advanced computers look like pocket calculators. Zephyrians weren't conquerors. They were desperately trying to gather resources and technology for their own survival. The weight of this revelation settled over the room like a cold shadow. Humanity had won its first interstellar war, but in doing so, they had revealed themselves to threats that could make the Zephyrian invasion look like a minor skirmish. What do we do? Admiral Constantine asked. Maya manipulated the holographic display, highlighting areas of space where quantum anomalies suggested the presence of advanced civilizations. We prepare. The technology I developed to fight the Zephyrians can be adapted for defense against the quantum collective, but we need to advance our understanding of quantum mathematics by decades in just a few years. And if we can't? Dr. Rodriguez asked. Maya thought about her parents, about all the people who had died in the war, about the responsibility that now rested on her young shoulders. Then humanity will share the same fate as the Zephyrians and thousands of other species that tried to stand against the collective. Over the following months, Maya threw herself into her new role with the same intensity she had shown during the crisis. Under her direction, human scientists made breakthrough after breakthrough in quantum technology, guided by her unique ability to understand alien mathematics that had taken her father years to decipher. The quantum defense grid she designed stretched across human space like an invisible web, capable of detecting and neutralizing technological threats from light years away. New ship designs incorporated Zephyrian crystal matrices with human engineering, creating vessels that could manipulate spacetime itself. Most importantly, Maya established the Quantum Academy, where the brightest human minds learned to think in mathematical dimensions that previous generations had considered impossible. But Maya's greatest achievement was more subtle than any weapon or defense system. Working with xenobiology teams, she developed translation protocols that allowed humans to communicate with the scattered survivors of species that had fled the quantum collective. Slowly, carefully, she began building an alliance of refugee civilizations, each contributing their own unique knowledge to the growing resistance. The first test of Maya's preparations came 2 years after the Zephyrian War, when long-range sensors detected artificial structures moving through interstellar space toward human territory. The objects were massive geometric shapes that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, their surfaces covered with patterns that hurt human eyes to look at directly. Quantum Collective Reconnaissance Probes, Maya announced to the Emergency Council session. They're not directly hostile, but they're mapping our space and analyzing our technology. This is how the collective evaluates potential threats. Admiral Constantine, now in charge of humanity's combined defense forces, studied the tactical displays with grim determination. How long do we have before they decide we're worth conquering? Maya consulted her quantum analysis computers, machines that incorporated both human technology and salvaged Zephyrian components. Based on the patterns I'm seeing, probably 18 months. The probes are looking for specific technological signatures that indicate a species has developed beyond the point where simple conquest is cost-effective. And have we? Dr. Rodriguez asked. Maya smiled for the first time in months. That's exactly what we want them to think. The quantum defense grid isn't just a weapon system. It's designed to make our technology appear far more advanced than it actually is. We're essentially bluffing against the machine intelligence that could crush us without effort. The strategy worked better than Maya had dared to hope. After 6 months of observation, the Quantum Collective probes withdrew to the galactic rim, apparently deciding that humanity was too advanced to be worth the resources required for conquest. But Maya knew this was only a temporary reprieve. Eventually, the collective would return with enough force to test humanity's defenses properly. On the 5th anniversary of the Battle of Kepler Station, Maya stood in her laboratory aboard Unity Station, humanity's new mobile research facility that could fold space-time to appear anywhere in human space within minutes. She was now 23, recognized throughout the galaxy as the architect of humanity's quantum revolution. Through the laboratory's viewports, she could see the construction docks where the newest generation of human vessels were being assembled. The ships looked like nothing that had existed before, elegant curves of living metal that incorporated quantum matrices from a dozen different alien species. Each vessel was a work of art and engineering that could manipulate reality itself in limited ways. Dr. Webb, now elderly but still sharp, joined her at the viewport. Your father would be amazed to see what you've accomplished, he said quietly. Maya nodded, thinking about the journey that had brought her from a teenage refugee to the leader of humanity's defense against cosmic threats. He gave me the tools, but the galaxy taught me how to use them. The Zephyrians, the Quantum Collective, all the refugee species we've encountered. Each one has shown me that survival requires more than just advanced technology. What does it require? Dr. Webb asked. Maya watched a new ship launch from the construction dock, its quantum drives bending space around it in patterns of impossible beauty. Cooperation, understanding, the ability to see enemies as potential allies and to find hope even in the darkest situations. The universe is vast and dangerous, but it's also full of species that just want to survive and find their place among the stars. As Unity Station prepared to fold space toward its next destination, a distant system where another refugee species needed help establishing quantum defenses, Maya reflected on how much her life had changed. Since that desperate flight from Earth, she had started as a frightened teenager fleeing an alien invasion, but the galaxy had transformed her into something far greater. The teenager who had once hidden among refugees had become the architect of humanity's destiny among the stars, proving that even in the darkest times, courage and intelligence could change the course of galactic history. The war with the Zephyrians was long over, but Maya's real adventure, building a peaceful alliance of species in a hostile universe, was just beginning. In the end, she had become exactly what the galaxy needed, not just a hero who could win battles, but a leader who could help different species find common ground in their shared struggle to survive and thrive among the infinite mysteries of space.